I'm Mark Becky, Research Director for AI with the Futurum Group. Welcome to the AI Moment, our weekly podcast that explores the latest developments in enterprise AI. The pace of change and innovation in AI is dizzying and unprecedented. I've been covering AI since 2016. I've never seen anything like what we've experienced since ChatGPT launched in October of last year and kickstarted generative AI. With the podcast, the AI Moment podcast, we try to distill the mountain of information and separate the real from the hype and provide you with sure-handed analysis about where the AI market will go. In each episode, we'll dive deep into the latest trends and technologies that are shaping the AI landscape. From discussions about the latest advancements in AI technology and parsing the mutating vendor landscape, to AI regulations, ethics, risk management, and more. We'll cover a lot. Today we have one subject we're going to work with, and I'm going to go through this. This is a segment I call, if you watch the show or read some of my stuff, it's called The Adults in the AI Rumpus Room. And what we're going to do is a look at the best of 2023. So let's go ahead and get started. So I put this together thinking about, and the way that I thought about this was, let me set the stage a little bit for adults in the rumpus room. So, as we mentioned, it's been moving fast this year with generative AI, and it's really considered possibly the fastest moving technology innovation in history. When that happens, it captured, the imaginations of consumers and enterprises, and there's been a lot of innovation in a mutating ecosystem, which is normal in tech innovation. But it's also caused a lot of FOMO, a lot of missteps, a lot of false starts. And these are classic signs of technology disruption. There's lots of innovation, but there's also lots of mistakes. And it's a rumpus room with a lot of kids going wild. And the rumpus room needs adults. And what we mean by that is we think about guidance through generative AI, the minefield that it is. And that guidance comes from thoughtful organizations who don't panic and who are good at managing AI risk. So that sets the stage. That's the adults in the AI rumpus room, is us looking at companies that do that. And I've been doing that since about August. So over the last 4 months, since August 21st, that was when we first published our adults in the generative AI rumpus room, our first one. We've done 10 research notes on that since August 21st. And in those notes, I kind of looked at it and wanted to go kind of look through what was in there. And here are some highlights. I highlighted 30 different initiatives from a total of 21 different companies. And if you look at that body of work, we can draw some conclusions about that. And to me, it gives us a look at what was the best of the adults in the generative AI rumpus room for 2023. So there's 3 categories we're going to talk about today. First is, not first, this will be the last, but the first one we're going to talk about is the top adult initiatives. And what I mean by that are initiatives that we noted that had the greatest impact in providing adult leadership in generative AI during the year. So that's a group of something. The second category is going to be the top adult trends. So what did we see as trends in that scenario? If you looked at the collective initiatives we watched, what were the trends? And then finally, we came up with a top adults, right? So we're going to name who was the most adult in 2023. And we're going to do that based on the number of initiatives that we noted. So I'll get to that in a sec when we get to that part. So let's start with the top initiatives segment. So like I said, there were 30 initiatives that we've written about since August that were having this positive impact, calming the generative AI market, But to me, there were 7 that made the biggest difference. And I'm going to list them. They're not in any particular order. So there's not top to bottom. They're just all kind of about the same. But we'll list them as this, and we'll go through the details. They are Salesforce's commitment to trusted use of AI, IBM's commitment to list source data for new Granite AI models. AI2 has debuted an open data set for AI training. The Data Provenance Organization launched audit tools for AI data sets. Google went through what they call the Sensitive Data Protection Service and what they can do around generative AI. IBM Watson X Governance launched and is taking on AI risk management. And related to that, guardrails for Amazon Bedrock, which is a similar type of a product that helps companies work in responsible AI. So let's go through those details, right? So I named 7. So Salesforce, and the Dreamforce, this is back in September. Mark Benioff, the CEO, he introduced the company's what he called the tenets of trusted and ethical and humane AI, and emphasized how Salesforce was going to commit to the trusted use of AI. So the tenets are this: 1, your data is an R product. That's Salesforce saying that. 2, you control access to your data. 3, we prioritize accurate, verifiable results. 4, our product policies protect human rights. Oops, that's 3. But anyway, the next one is we advance responsible AI globally. And the last one is that transparency builds trust. So this was really presented almost at the beginning of his keynote. And when he went through his keynote, he spoke over and over again about AI and in the same sentence, trust. And he said, you cannot do it. I'm looking at what he actually quoted. He says, you cannot do AI without being able to trust what it does. And the company is, I would say, liberally using this word trust in describing AI capabilities. We have an incredible opportunity in AI, and how we do it matters. We have to do it right, and we have to do it responsibly. Now, I wrote this in a note. There's links to what that keynote looked like. You can go into our show notes and see those links. But I think this is a really adult move and one of the key ones of the year, because they were really the latest in a string of responsible actions that Salesforce has taken with AI. And there's really been a lot of public conversation about regulation, and when it comes to privacy and bias and toxicity and hallucinations, transparency, explainability, consumer rights, IP and copyright laws, consumer protection, and how all those regulations would squash innovation and business growth and a U.S. competitive advantage. Well, to me, that discussion maybe should be a different arc. And the conversation is less about what we specifically should do about government regulation and more about what companies can do to act responsibly with AI right now. And in that process, that calms the nerves of all parties, the AI users, the companies that leverage AI, and the government. So what's missing in the equation is representation from a company that's on the front line of live AI application, and one that is taking the risk of leveraging AI and reaping some reward. And Washington needs to hear about that experience and what that experience has taught a company, and that implementing the pillars of responsible AI, which is responsible, accountable, transparent, empowering, inclusive, Salesforce trusted AI principles, those are their principles, is really good business discipline. And it mitigates AI risk for both the company who's offering the services and its customers. So to me, Salesforce is living what enterprises need to see and how to incorporate AI responsibly. And I thought that was a significant move when they were talking about this and really moving it forward at Dreamforce. So that's number 1. The second is IBM's commitment to list open source data for their new Granite AI models. So in September, early September, IBM announced they had launched several of these. They had a bunch of stuff going around Watson X, and it included the launch of their models, their AI models called Granite. Those Granite series are designed, as the press release says, designed to support enterprise NLP tasks such as summarization, content generation, insight extraction, and they were made. The models were made available in September. So what was interesting about this launch by IBM, and I'm going to read a little bit of what they said in their press release. It's very important. So IBM plans to, quote, provide a list of the sources of data as well as a description of the data processing and filtering steps that were performed to produce the training data for the Granite series of models. So that's the quote. So there's growing momentum for this approach to transparency within AI models. A lot of proprietary LLMs, I mean, almost all of them, really refuse to divulge their training data sources for various reasons. And I'm including open source models like Llama. But most commonly, the vendors do that because they see the data source as competitive IP. What's interesting and different about IBM is they're positioning their models as less secret sauce. And rather that the proprietary value that IBM's bringing is their stack, and that the Watson X is in the Watson X, it's in their platform, or the value of the complete chain that they have to offer. So it frees IBM up to offer these models that might, that really do meet best practices for transparency. So I think that was a really great move. And I think we're going to see more of that. That's a trend that I think we'll see a lot more over the next year. Number 3 is AI2's debut of an open data set for AI training. So in August, it's AI2 is the Allen Institute for AI. And they announced that they had made available this, it's called DOLMA. It's a data set of 3 trillion tokens. That's a big data set. It's the largest open data set to date. And it was, and DOLMA is kind of the data set for their planned open source, and that's what OLMO is based on. And nearly all the data sets on which current LLMs are trained are private, like we just said about when we talked about IBM. So I think this is an adult move because LLMs have been built on data sets that are private. The data is typically scraped without permission from publicly available data on the web. And so the major challenges of LLM outputs, like we just mentioned before, bias, toxicity, inaccuracy, and hallucination. And one way to address these issues is to use LLMs to trace those issues back to the data source. So open data sets provides that opportunity. Again, this is kind of playing on the same theme that we saw with IBM being an open source, an open data set. They're going to tell you what it was. Here's another set that's open. So it's good. It's open source. Along this line, it's kind of related is another the third piece, fourth piece is data provenance organization. So this is they've launched this audit tool for data sets. So we see the theme we've got going here with data sets. This is in October. This is a newly formed research-led group called the Data Provenance Organization. They published a paper and some data that will enable organizations to audit AI data sets to use to train their LLMs. And this is what the abstract sounds like. So again, I'm going to read this to you because it's their words, but it says this: the race to training language models on vast, diverse, and inconsistently documented data sets has raised pressing concerns about the legal and ethical risk. Again, same story we've heard. We convene with a multidisciplinary effort between legal and machine learning experts to systematically audit and trace 1,800 plus fine-tuning data sets. Our landscape analysis highlights the sharp divides in composition and focus of commercially open versus closed data sets, with closed data sets monopolizing important categories, lower resource languages, more creative tasks, richer top. I'm going to skip that part. This points to a deep, but there were problems, right? I'll let you read it in my reports. This points to a deepening divide in the types of data that were made available under different license conditions and heightened implications for jurisdictional legal interpretations of copyright and fair use of that data and those outputs, right? So we also observe the frequent miscategorization of licenses on widely used data sets hosting sites. And they go on to talk about that. This points to a crisis in misattribution and informed use of the most popular data sets, driving many recent breakthroughs. So looking at, inaccuracies and all the problems we have with these. So as a contribution to ongoing improvement in dataset transparency and responsible use, we release our entire audit. So the audit's there for everybody to see, with an interactive UI called the Data Provenance Explorer, which allows practitioners to trace and filter on data provenance for the most popular open source fine-tuning data collections. I know it's a mouthful, but basically, they did a study of 1,800 fine-tuned data sets, and they are publishing the results of what they see with that audit. So an audit tool to that is really useful for folks to look at. And then they have a way of you gauging this. So this is a huge adult move, like we said. Again, theme. There's an old adage that garbage in, garbage out, and it applies to large data sets used to train AI. When we get to where we're using better and smaller data sets, we believe that will lead to better LLM outcomes, more accuracy. And this Explorer tool gives enterprises that opportunity to review all these different models, their approaches, look under the hood at the data, and see how they're constructed, and be better informed about the models they might choose to use. So increased use, I think this is a first step that we'll see more and more of, is audits of these data sets. Very important, and it's a huge leap forward in an adult move for AI. All right, we got two. We're going to go fast here because we've been moving slow, but three more to go. The next one is Google had a announcement within their sensitive data protection service that was interesting. And in October, they published this post, described how they have this product called the Sensitive Data Protection Service and how it can be used to secure generative AI workloads. And so, I'm going to read this a little bit according to the post. Generative AI requires data in order to tune and extend it for specific business needs. However, one concern that organizations have is how to reduce the risk of customizing and training models with their own data that may include sensitive elements such as personal information, PI, or personally identifiable information, PII. And often this personal data is surrounded by context that the model needs so it can function properly. So what the service does is companies or organizations can use Google Cloud's sensitive data protection to add additional layers of data protection throughout the life cycle of a generative AI model, from the training and also to the tuning and inference. And the early adoption of these protection techniques can help ensure that your model workloads are safer, more compliant, and reduce the risk of wasted cost on having to retrain or retune later. So this is a great and significant piece, I think. And what it does is it unlocks, when you want to unlock the proprietary power of an LLM, enterprises have to leverage their own data, right? That's what they have to do. But most have hesitated because of the fear that that proprietary data will be used to train the models, or the PII will be exposed. And in other words, it's hard to trust that they can use an LLM and their own data due to the security issues. So data security is a major issue for generative AI. And this is a tool that allows enterprises to feel more confident in the way they can leverage that data against AI foundation models. All right, two more big ones, and then we're going to go to our next category. This is kind of a tie, two different things. IBM's in here again with a product they call Watson X Governance. In July, IBM announced this launch of the Watson X series of services. Governance was one. It's designed to help enterprises direct and monitor and manage AI activities in the organization. And it's slated to be available before the end of the year. I haven't heard. I think it just went GA. So let's look at what the issue is, right? Organizations that typically build AI models without clarity, they don't really monitor or catalog this, but the product governance automates and consolidates tools, applications, and platforms. If something changes in a model, all the information is automatically collected for an audit trail through testing and diagnostics. So some discipline put into model governance. Now, there's other pieces to it. So when you're looking at the risks around AI, you really need to look at it case by case. And emerging best practices are for organizations to build an ethics governance framework, an AI ethics governance framework. And that means you establish ethics committees to oversee these things. And the approach is very manual. It's a very manual process. So Watson X Governance helps address this through, it automates workflows so that you can better detect fairness, bias, and drift within the models. And it's got an automated testing piece that ensures compliance. If an enterprise puts in standards and policies, they can plug that in and it can watch it throughout the lifecycle. Very useful piece. There's another piece that's going to skip it, but let you know that it basically looks at regulations and helps companies think about that as well. So this is an adult move for the year, a good one for the year. So risk management is foundation. AI risk management is foundational, and it's critical to operationalizing AI. And enterprises will learn this either the hard way through ignoring it, or an easier way by embracing, methodical AI risk management practices. And IBM is in this really great position to help these enterprises navigate risk management with this tool. And the strengths of it are the vision and the blueprint for automating model management and the audit trail that we talked about. So it's just automating those workflows to detect better fairness and stuff like that is good. So it's very useful, and it's a good product, a nice adult move. Last one is guardrails for Amazon Bedrock. And this is a similar product. I'm going to say it's similar in that it helps build guardrails. Obviously, it's called guardrails, but for responsible AI. So at reInvent back in November, AWS launched this product. And it's basically allowing Amazon Bedrock users to define denied topics, put in content filters to remove undesirable and harmful content from interactions between their applications and the end users. And the details kind of look like this. There's a control piece where denied topics, and you can deny topics and configure with natural language commands. So users can get this short natural language description to define a set of topics that are undesirable in the context of their application. They plug that in and it will seek that out. And the content filters in it is a good control. So users can configure these thresholds to filter out harmful content, hate, insults, sexual violence categories. And there's a lot of like foundation models that have some of these built-in protections to prevent that kind of generation of undesirable responses and things like that. But the guardrails product gives their users kind of an additional controls to filter this, to to the desired degrees based on the user's company use cases and responsible AI policy. So it gives that kind of custom layer to things. So again, I just think that, again, and it's an adult thing, that the product itself is really a reflection of some careful thinking on the part of AWS about responsible use of AI. And the idea that you can do prevention and be proactive. It's an approach that is unique at this point. It's likely going to be something that I believe Microsoft and Google will soon add similar features to their AI development platforms. But either way you look at it, it is the mark of AI leadership. And it's just another signal that AWS understands generative AI. So it's a good move. All right. Those are our top moves for top initiatives, adult initiatives for the year. Real quick, we'll do the last pieces. The trends, and you kind of saw how this kind of rolled out while we were talking about those initiatives, the key initiatives, the 7, are really 2. One is building data set transparency. And if you notice, 3 of those top 7 initiatives that we went through, the IBM's commitment to the Granite models, the AI2's open source, open DOLMA data set, and data provenance organizations audit tools are all focused on building better, more responsible LLMs. And because that major challenge is there for outputs on bias and toxicity and accuracy and hallucination, these are the kind of ways to address this, is for those that use LLMs to be able to trace these issues back to the data source. That's going to really be the biggest thing that will solve the challenges with LLMs. So this is our top trend, I think, in adults moves for the year, and for 2023, I would highly think that they're going to be around for 2024. The other thing I think we saw as a responsible, an adult trend, was this emergence of these commercial AI risk management tools. So the IBM Watson-S governance, and the guardrails for Amazon Bedrock. I think we're going to see more and more of that. It's interesting and innovative that you have companies that are trying to help enterprises automate those types of systems, and I just think we're going to see a lot more of that going forward. Okay, so those are your top 2 trends. All right, now for the drum roll, the top adults of 2023. This is very subjective. I'm not saying it's not. You could really judge who was the most adult by the importance of their initiative for a particular piece, right? But you could look at volume of initiatives that we covered that they were recognized for. So I thought, for the purposes of this little exercise, that volumes of initiatives was a fair way to look at this. Who did we write about the most? And under that criteria, who did we mention the most in our adult series, Adults in the Rumpus Room? Out of that, the number 1 company by far was Google. So Google is the top adult in the AI Rumpus Room for 2023. I'll tell you what it was. They had 6 of the 30 initiatives that we wrote about this year were Google initiatives. And that's 20% of the total. And the work spanned across a range of different areas. The list is, I'm just kind of naming, these are the names of the way we wrote them out, right? So Google Android introduced an AI safeguard policies for Google Play apps. They did an IP indemnification for generative AI. The Sensitive Data Protection Service, which we mentioned. They had an initiative from Google Cloud that launched what's called Synth ID for AI watermark. It's an AI watermarking tool. YouTube enlisted UMG artists to tinker in the YouTube Music AI Incubator to kind of think proactively about how AI gets used in that type of content. And then they did a lot of work around advancing generative AI search. So 6 different initiatives puts them at the top of the pile. If you look at who was next, It was IBM, and IBM was mentioned 3 times out of our 30, and they had 3 of our 30 initiatives. We've talked about 2 of them, the data sources for the Granite models and the Watson X governance. The other piece was they also launched IP indemnification. That's hard to say, for generative AI outputs. So IBM's number 2. There was a tie at number 3 with 2 initiatives mentioned. It was AWS and Anthropic, and you can read about those, like I said, in our research notes on AI adults in the AI Rumpus Room. So that's it. In a conclusion, if I kind of concluded the year, I'd say that all organizations that stepped up to lead as adults in the generative AI Rumpus Room in 2023 should be commended. It's likely we're through probably the most unruly year for generative AI. That I don't think 2024 is going to be as unruly. It should calm down some, but we're going to need more adults to step up and show the way, instill calm and order in the generative AI market. So that is our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me here on the AI Moment. Be sure to subscribe and rate and review the podcast on your preferred platform. We'll see you next time.